Here is the plan so you guys can screenshot it or whatever. Hello beautiful people and welcome back to my channel. So this has been haunting me a little bit. My most successful video on my channel, by a lot, has like 20,000 views, and it is the most horrendous quality video I've ever produced in my life. For the sake of showing you that I am capable of making a decent video, I hope. Because the plan itself got a really great response. A ton of people said they used it for like their weigh-ins or their weight class sports and all of those different things, and it worked for me too. So I do want to share it with you, but I want to share it with you in a way that is a little bit more clear-cut, a little bit more step-by-step, and a little bit easier to understand. So I'm going to explain exactly what I did step-by-step for this water cut that I did. Then I'll also show you like the plan like laid out step-by-step, like by days out from your meet, so that you can screenshot it or whatever, because I think that would be helpful too. Disclaimer, I'm not a doctor. I don't recommend this. This is not fun. Frankly, it sucks. And also it's not good for you. So this is meant for weight class athletes. This is not meant for like just for funsies. So a while back when I made that video, I competed at the American Open for weightlifting, and this was my first national circuit meet. So I was so excited, but I was so nervous that I wasn't gonna make weight. This plan that I'm about to kind of present to you is the most extreme version that I could kind of morally talk myself into doing, because I wanted to lose as much as possible and I was really afraid it wasn't going to work. So I was about 5 pounds over my weight class, but from my highest loaded weight to my weigh-in, I lost about 14 pounds. Variables that I manipulated were sodium, water intake, and carbohydrate intake. Don't feel like you have to manipulate them all, because again, this produced like kind of an overkill result. So if you want to just, you know, not do carbs or whatever it is, totally fine. You will still lose whatever amount of weight, and if you don't have to lose a lot, I'm sure that would be totally fine. I started 5 days out, and 5 days out I started drinking 2 to 2.5 gallons of water. With that, I also doubled my normal sodium intake. So if you're someone that tracks food, it's very easy to figure this out. If you don't, track your food for a few days, whatever, a week leading up to it, so you can kind of figure out where your baseline is. 4 days out, same, drinking 2 to 2.5 gallons of water, and also still doubling that sodium intake. Still normal carbohydrate intake up until this point. 3 days out from the meet or the event, you're going to have 2 gallons of water. You are going to have about 1 to 1.5 times the amount of sodium you normally have. So you could realistically just have like a pretty normal day and add some extra salt to some of your meals and be totally fine. And then this is where I began manipulating carbs. So I was eating, I think, about 190 grams of carbs at the time, which is way lower than I eat now. And I began consuming half that amount. So I think I was somewhere around like 95 grams per day. Then 2 days out, you're gonna drop that water intake to 1.5 to 2 gallons. And this is where it gets tricky with sodium. You are going to try to consume as little sodium as possible. That's very hard to do. There's sodium in everything. You're probably not going to get to 0. Like, it's not the end of the world. The goal is to just be extremely mindful of it and try to keep it as low as possible. What this is going to do is, up until this point, you were loading water and loading sodium, and sodium will help you hold that water in. So you're not going to just be excreting it. Then when you drop your sodium, the idea is that all of a sudden you are peeing your brains out, which is not fun, and you begin kind of draining that water out at a faster rate than normal. You will hyperproduce the hormone that tells you to pee. What that will do is it will basically overkill your excretion, and because there's no sodium holding, you're not going to be holding on to water weight that you could kind of be flushing out. On this 2 day out mark, I also went down to about 25% of my normal carb intake. That being said, I didn't stick to this exactly. I don't remember my exact intake, but as long as you're on the low end, I wouldn't panic about the numbers I'm giving you. How I got them is I just watched all of the best weight class competitors, and I looked for what they did, and I just compiled my own plan off of that, and based off obviously my nutrition training and the knowledge that I already have. It's not necessarily an exact formula, and with that, if you are a massively bigger person than I am, you'll be able to lose a lot more water weight. If you're a lot smaller than I am, it would be a lot harder to lose the amount of weight that you're trying to, if you're trying to get to that like 15-ish pound mark. So the day before, this is where it kind of gets like tricky, but it's kind of fun to play the game when you're excited for an event and things like that. You are going to cut out all solid food 20 hours out. Then 5 hours later, so 15 hours out from your weigh-in, you are going to cut all liquids out too. During that 5 hour like in between period, I drank some protein shakes, but that did have sodium. It didn't seem to make a difference. And I just tried to drink like Pedialyte and things like that that would help me replenish my electrolytes. And then before those cutoffs, the day before, you're gonna wanna try to drink 1 gallon of distilled water. Distilled water does not hold minerals, so it's completely just pure water. When you do this, it has a very big flushing effect. So you're going to be peeing a ton. It's not going to be super fun. Stay near a bathroom. The day before as well, you're going to want to have as little sodium as possible and as few carbs as possible. Again, if you're manipulating all 3 variables. Doing this, again, it was about a 14-pound difference within that 24-hour period. Of course, you start 5 days out. If you started later, you are going to probably see a little bit less of a difference. The only caveat I will say is if you are someone that doesn't drink a lot of water on a normal basis, don't jump to the high end of like 2.5 or 3 gallons a day, because you can get really sick. Water manipulation is much more dangerous than people think. And if you don't know what you're doing and you don't know what to look for when you're doing these things, it can get a little sketchy. So please be careful with this. So here is the plan so you guys can screenshot it or whatever. So after you do this, you weigh in. If you do have a 2-hour weigh-in, I really suggest going easy. You're gonna want to feel like you want to like stuff yourself with as much as possible, and like that will make you feel better, but it won't. My go-to is Pedialyte for everything. Like if I'm having a bad day, I get a Pedialyte. It's so good and it makes you feel so much better. The biggest thing though is you have to sip it. You cannot chug it because you're wicked thirsty. You may throw up, and 2, you're not going to feel good. It's going to feel like really heavy sitting in your stomach. The other thing that I did, and I will continue to do, is I always try to have a very simple carb that agrees with me really well. In this particular instance, I just had a plain bagel from Dunkin' Donuts. I was like, it's simple, it's easy, I know it agrees with my stomach, like I'm good with that. And that was really good. I definitely didn't feel like over full going on stage, but I did feel very depleted. I didn't feel like I had a lot of power in me. So kind of do with that what you may. If you have to make weight, like for me, this event was so exciting that I was so scared to not make weight and not be able to step on that stage after I worked so hard to get there. If it's like a local meet, you like compete for fun and like it's just supposed to be a good experience, like don't cut a bunch of weight, especially if you're new. Like that was probably my biggest mistake. I started weightlifting and I immediately chose a weight class lower than what I naturally sat at. And it adds so much stress, and it also sort of tricks you into thinking that you're a worse competitor than you are, because when you step on stage, you're a lot lighter and you've been doing, you know, water cuts or whatever it is, or really hard dieting. You don't lift as well as you're used to lifting, or you don't lift as heavy as you're used to lifting. And now you're like, oh, I'm just really bad on game day. And it's like, no, you're 15 pounds lighter on game day. That's a lot different. If you have a 24-hour weigh-in, so like you have a full 24 hours before you compete, after you weigh in to like replenish and all of that, I would suggest super carb heavy meals, hydrate slowly still. Don't start chugging. Pedialyte, sip on it the entire 24 hours, then you should feel pretty damn good by the time you step on stage. I wouldn't be too worried about that. If you liked this video, please like, subscribe, all of those good things. I really appreciate it. It really, really helps me out. And that being said, I hope that this video is at least a little better than the other one. And if you really want to see, tell me in the comments. Go watch the other one. Let me know. Until next time, guys, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'll see you then.